Right. So, welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today we're tackling something that's been all over the headlines lately, this whole Dani Olmo and Barcelona saga.
Yeah, it's a wild one for sure.
It really is. At first glance, you see the headlines, player wants to move, club might be interested, and you think, okay, pretty normal transfer window stuff.
Yeah.
But with this
Oh,
one,
there's so much more to it.
this is not your average transfer story. We're talking about Barcelona potentially on the hook for a truly mind-boggling amount of money.
Mm.
Like, we're talking over 218 million pounds,
Yeah,
all because of this situation with Olmo.
that's right. And it all boils down to La Liga's financial fair play regulations. And honestly, it's a fascinating case study in how those rules can sometimes create these really complicated scenarios, especially when you have a club with the global ambitions of a team like Barcelona trying to, operate within those boundaries.
So let's break this down a bit for our listeners who might not be totally up to speed on all the ins and outs here. So we've got Dani Olmo. He's a midfielder, a talented one by all
It's a
accounts,
talented.
and he wants to play for Barcelona. Seems like Barcelona wants him too. So where's the problem?
Right. Seems simple enough on the surface. Well, Barcelona, as we all know, is already in a bit of a financial bind, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
They've had some well-documented struggles. Anyway, they tried to register Olmo before the January transfer deadline hit, but La Liga stepped in and said, hold up, not so fast.
And that's because of these financial fair play rules, right? The Liga has these regulations in place basically to prevent clubs from just spending recklessly and getting themselves into these, unsustainable situations. They have to keep their spending in line with their revenue.
Exactly. And it's all designed to protect the long-term financial health of the league and all the clubs within it. But as we're seeing with this case, it can lead to some really tricky situations.
So La Liga says no to Olmo joining Barcelona. But Olmo is technically a free agent at this point. He's not
Yeah.
tied to any other club, and he's made it clear he wants to play for Barcelona. So he's kind of stuck in limbo, isn't he?
Totally stuck, can't officially play for them, can't really move to another club easily either. And then you have Barcelona, who's not only missing out on the player they want, but now they're facing this massive financial fallout.
Okay, so let's talk about that fallout. You mentioned 218 million pounds. That's an insane amount of money. Where does that number come from?
All right, so buckle up because it's a bit of a wild ride. We have to look at it in a few parts.
Okay.
First, you've got the wages that Barcelona agreed to pay Olmo. Even if he doesn't play a single minute for them, they're still on the hook for around 41 million pounds. That's just in unpaid wages.
Oof, that's a big hit right out of the gate.
It is. And then on top of that, remember they still owe RB Leipzig money from the original transfer deal. That's another 47 million pounds they have to cough up.
So that's already almost 90 million just from those two things.
You got it. And here's the kicker. Let's say they had been able to register Olmo. Let's say everything went smoothly. Well, given his age, his talent, his potential, we're talking about a player they probably could have sold on to another club down the line for a significant profit. And some experts estimate his market value is around 53 million. So that's another huge chunk of potential income that's just gone poof.
So we're talking about three major financial blows here.
Mm-hmm.
Unpaid wages, outstanding transfer fees, and then a massive missed opportunity for future revenue.
Yeah,
It's like this whole situation is a financial domino effect.
exactly. It's one thing after another, and it really illustrates how precarious things can become for clubs who maybe haven't been managing their finances quite as diligently as they should.
Yeah, and it's not just about this Olmo deal either, right?
Right.
Didn't we also talk about Barcelona missing out on a ton of potential revenue with those VIP box sales during the Camp Nou renovations?
Oh, absolutely. You can't talk about this whole situation without bringing that up. During those renovations, they sold the VIP boxes at Camp Nou for about 87 million pounds, which on the surface doesn't sound bad at all.
Yeah, that seems like a decent chunk of change.
Right. But the thing is, a lot of experts believe they could have easily gotten double that amount if they just had a more strategic approach. We're talking potentially another 87 million pounds left on the table.
Jeez. So they're essentially adding insult to injury here by not only facing these huge losses from the Olmo debacle, but also missing out on all this extra revenue they could have been bringing in.
Yep. It's a tough spot to be in, no doubt.
So let's just add all this up here. We've got the 41 million in unpaid wages, the 47 million owed to Leipzig, the potential 53 million loss from a future sale, and then that extra 87 million they probably missed out on with the VIP boxes.
Oh, and don't forget that Olmo is a very talented player. So not only are there the financial ramifications, but also they're missing out on a player that could help them win trophies and, in turn, make more revenue.
Yeah, good point. It's a perfect storm.
It really is.
And it's not just about a missed transfer opportunity anymore. We're talking about a club already facing financial challenges. And this is like adding a mountain of debt onto an already precarious situation. So what does this mean for Barcelona's future? How do they even begin to dig themselves out of this hole?
Well, first and foremost, they need to resolve the Olmo situation as quickly as possible. January 3rd is the deadline, and honestly, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a scenario where they can just magically reverse this ruling and register him.
It is. I mean, stranger things have happened in football, but most experts I've spoken with are pretty pessimistic about their chances. La Liga seems pretty intent on enforcing these financial regulations.
And with good reason. If they start making exceptions for clubs like Barcelona, it undermines the whole system, doesn't it?
100%.
It sets a bad precedent for the rest of the league.
Yeah.
But even beyond Olmo, they've got some serious work to do to stabilize their finances. This isn't a problem that's going to disappear overnight. It could have long-term implications for their ability to attract top players, to compete for trophies, to maintain their status as one of the biggest clubs in the world.
Right. I mean, they've got a match against lower league Barbastro in the Copa del Rey coming up, and then they've got Athletic Club in the Supercopa de España semifinal.
Two very winnable games.
Absolutely. But they'll have to do it all without Olmo. That's got to be frustrating for everyone involved.
So I guess the big question is, where do they go from here? This whole saga feels like a cautionary tale, doesn't it? A reminder that even the biggest clubs in the world aren't immune to these kinds of financial pitfalls.
It really does. And it makes you wonder what kind of ripple effects this might have across the rest of the football world. Will other clubs take note and maybe be a bit more cautious with their spending in the future? Will La Liga or other leagues around the world reassess their financial fair play rules?
It's a big, complicated issue with no easy answers. But one thing's for sure, this whole Olmo situation has certainly thrown a spotlight on the need for smarter, more sustainable financial practices in football.
I think that's a great point to end on. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. This was great.
Cheers.
To all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in for another deep dive. Until next time.